What makes you attracted to someone else? Is it their personality, their sense of humor, or how well they cook? Even though it might embarrass us to admit that looks matter more than they should, the truth is that it's a combination of all those factors. Attraction, or as science puts it, mate preference, is a fascinating and insightful area of study within psychology that we're going to examine today. There are several theories put forth to explain what makes someone attractive, and they can be generally classified as being biological, cognitive, and social. You may recognize that we took a similar approach when trying to explain gender role formation. Today, we look at biological theories. Biological explanations always start with the assumption that all behavior can be explained by natural selection. So let's do a quick crash course in evolution, which I promise I'll do in 45 seconds. Let's start the clock now. So, characteristics or traits are passed down through DNA. Offspring can have different DNA from their parents and their siblings, of course, due to inheriting different combinations or by plain genetic mutation. The thing is, those characteristics stack the odds differently when it comes to survival. In an environment with lots of predators, the butterflies that just so happen to be the right shade for camouflage will be more likely to survive, and those that are able to better attract mates will simply be reproducing more. In both cases, future generations will now have more of the DNA that causes those characteristics, camouflage or mate attraction. And in that way, the species evolves. Nature selects certain genes totally based on reproduction and survival. And that's evolution in a nutshell. Stop the clock! Whew. If any of those words weren't familiar to you, here's a short glossary. So, from all that, what we're saying is, from a biological point of view, the genes that are beneficial to the survival of the species should also be more likely to result in mating. So, when this stock image guy thinks, wow, she's attractive, what he's really thinking is, wow, based on her external features, she must have the DNA that would best give our offspring the strongest chance of survival. You laugh now, but there is evidence that appears to support this. For example, research by Kenrick suggests that females tend to prefer a partner who's the same age or slightly older than them, possibly so that they can be provided for. Males, on the other hand, prefer younger partners, presumably because that means they're more fertile. It's a very simplistic and rather crude way of looking at it, but it does make sense biologically. And the thing is, these preferences appear all across the world, suggesting that nurture wasn't responsible for it, but nature. Case in point, the International Mate Selection Project, a study conducted by David Bues and a lot of other people in 1990, which looked at nearly 10,000 people across 37 cultures. Pretty impressive. The average age of participants was 23 years, and they each had to complete 2 questionnaires on preferred mate characteristics and preferences. So, what did they find? Well, almost exactly what we mentioned previously. Across the world, females were more attracted to men with better financial prospects and earning capacity, as well as men with ambition and status. Keep in mind, these were the overall summaries of the data. Males, on the other hand, said they look for youth in a woman, although the exact age difference depended on which culture the men came from. But there were some things both sexes said. Mutual attraction and love was important in a mate, and of course, physical attractiveness. And of all the physical attributes, the more important ones seem to be clear skin, average features, and full lips. I mean, I guess. Of course, some responses were not universal, suggesting that they could not be explained by biological theories. These included chastity, religion, and community, which in some cultures increased attraction and in others decreased it. This study has been praised for its large sample size and diverse cultural representation, but some have criticized it for its uneven demographic and the fact that people might simply have responded to the questionnaire with socially acceptable answers instead of what they actually thought. So, what actually makes someone look attractive? Well, there are many factors, but one common observation is that it has to do with symmetry, particularly in faces. Indeed, symmetry is everywhere in nature. Peacocks have been known to show preference for symmetry in tail feather displays when selecting a partner. But why would we find symmetrical faces attractive? Well, there are 2 explanations. One is that based on an evolutionary advantage view, symmetry implies good health. Infections and diseases contracted during development can cause asymmetry, so a symmetrical face might imply a stronger immune system. Secondly, based on a perceptual bias view, our visual system recognizes and processes symmetrical information better than asymmetrical information, which could be why we have a preference for it. Curious. Well, have a look at these faces. Do they look familiar? As you may have guessed, none of these people actually exist. These pictures are composites made from thousands of faces from around the world to make an average face. Although you might think that an attractive face is one that stands out, research suggests that it's the average faces that are considered more attractive by the majority. Now, traditionally masculine and feminine faces are also considered attractive, as long as they aren't in the extreme, but watch what happens here when we Photoshop these faces to create a slightly feminine version of the man's face and a masculine version of the female face. Ignoring the fact that they look a little creepy, which do you think people find more attractive now? Interestingly, both males and females tend to prefer faces that are feminized, whether male or female. Although there is much evidence supporting biological theories of attraction, it also has several limitations. Here are some that I've taken from the Oxford Psychology textbook. First of all, behaviors that are too unpredictable and widely varying may not be due to evolution, but environmental and cultural factors. Indeed, beauty has been defined very differently all throughout history. Saying that attraction is based on reproductive qualities may also explain initial attraction, but not necessarily what keeps people in long-term relationships. And finally, it's difficult to use biological theories alone to explain same-sex attraction, since it isn't based on the production of offspring. It's clear that the evolutionary theory that explains attraction has both strengths and weaknesses. In the next lesson, we'll explore cognitive and social origins of attraction.